have 2 minutes early. It's been a long day.
Yep.
So, ladies and gentlemen, ask for your attention for the last round for our talk session today, which is called Green Space on Wellbeing. We have an presenter next week. Sachi will start by Jeremy. Sachi is not presenting today. Of course, welcome to our panel as well, which is full of Kevin Moore and Oliver.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shashi. I'm a PhD candidate at SOLA, and I'm from India. And I'm looking at my project looks at the ability of freshwater wetlands to sequester carbon in their use. And my supervisors of the project are Dr. Jivan Lawson, Dr. Nada, and Dr. Anthony. And I'm very grateful to my supervisors for their relentless support in this journey. And together, we are a research team, and I'm very grateful for their support. So, when I came to New Zealand 3 years ago, I was intrigued by the open space, open and green spaces in Christchurch, which is something that I'm not used to. Seeing in Delhi. So I was, and most importantly, I was fascinated by how easily the wetlands were accessible to public. Because in India, the Ramsar sites and these tropical wetlands, they are closed off from use of people because of the presence of certain predators in the animal kingdom. And over here, we could just walk into a wetland and have an experience there, which was very unique to me. And I wanted to, in my research, I wanted to see how does biodiversity of these urban ecosystems, the resilience capacity of these systems. So one aspect that I looked at was the ecosystems of risk that's coming out from these freshwater wetlands. And one of the most common one was their ability to have a large net carbon uptake in your soils, and that's because of the high below ground productivity and the water efficiency. And because Christchurch has temperate conditions, these systems they sequester and store carbon very efficiently. So I was interested in this ability and to explore more about the carbon dynamics that happen in these freshwater systems, so that I could determine better design and management practices to protect these systems from their carbon storage capacity. So, freshwater wetlands, they are known for storing large amount of carbon within their soil food, and most of the international data looks at soil carbon up to 1 meter depth. And what I found was that New Zealand freshwater wetlands, they have a high carbon sequestration rate of published studies is 1350 ton per hectare, and this sequestration rate is comparable to other countries such as US and Canada that have similar temperate conditions. And the thing was that only 10% of freshwater wetlands remain in New Zealand, and they only occupy 1% of land and land area. So one of the part contributions, because these systems they are getting converted to other land uses very fast, one of the contributions was to identify was to create evidence in terms of carbon data to support to provide evidence of their carbon stocks in a urban setting. With that, so the aim of this project is to identify the social and distribution of carbon stocks and the factors that influence carbon pools in freshwater, inland, and urban regions of Christchurch. And the specific focus is on the relation between plant communities, their assemblage structures, and carbon stocks at these sites. So the main objectives is to identify key sites of carbon sinks in freshwater wetlands, to identify which plant community and assemblage structure are effective in their ability to sequester carbon, and what do these findings mean in terms of design considerations for these 6 sites. So in this the key data and collection and analysis was broadly grouped into 3 categories. The first was measuring above ground carbon stocks at the selected wetlands. The second was measuring soil carbon stocks, and the third was identifying factors that impact carbon dynamics. So the above ground carbon stocks were determined were done through a series of steps. First was the identification of plant species, the dominant community structures, and the diverse assemblage structures in Travis and Sparks wetland in Christchurch. Second was carrying out measurements for species height, the body volume, and the certain parameters that are required in the environmental equations for determining the carbon stocks of these plant species. And the third one was carrying out these carbon calculations to prepare the above ground carbon stock profiles of these diverse assemblage structures. More than 300 plant assemblages were investigated from both Travis and Sparks wetland and Christchurch. Second aspect was determining the soil carbon stock at these wetlands, which was done up to 90 centimeter depth, and it was done by collecting samples, collecting soil samples below these plant facilities, and carrying out the lab procedures to determine the soil carbon concentration, from which the density and the stock values were derived. And in addition, the soil parameters that are known for influencing these carbon stocks, such as the acidic, the pH levels, the salinity levels, the bulk density, were also analyzed. The third was I was dependent on the secondary sources to come up with the environmental factors that are responsible for the generation of these carbon stocks. So one of the parameters that I measured directly from the soil from the sites for the saturated zones, which are identified as, and the other factors such as land use, geography, and geological characteristics, and into the population differential data, and synthesizing their findings with these carbon stocks at both Travis and Sparks. I'm still looking at my data, and I'm still writing and analyzing part of it. But what we know so far is that freshwater temperate wetlands, they start sequestering carbon at a very early age. So Sparks wetland was 3 years old at the time of data collection, and Travis wetland was 24 years old. So this is data collection was between 2020 and 2021. And what was noticed was that both wetlands, they created specific carbon sink sites within their ecosystem, and that was because of the presence of these plant communities and assemblage structures, the particular arrangement of these community and assemblage structures that impacted these carbon stocks. And in addition, these plant structures came in response to certain environmental conditions, and they are also needed to maintain the sequestered carbon stock and to prevent leaching of carbon or oxidation of carbon to the atmosphere. This is the carbon stock map up to 90 centimeters depth. This is the carbon stock map for farms. And what was noticed was that Travis wetland was storing up to 50,000 tons of carbon within their soil, and with a carbon sequestration rate of 807 tons per hectare. And Sparks was storing or sequestering approximately 38 tons of carbon in the soil, and the sequestration rate of 86.3. So, if you look at the New Zealand average of carbon sequestration rate in New Zealand for freshwater wetlands, which is 1350 tons per hectare, Travis stands at 807, which is in a fair bit of proportion to what the standard data says, and Sparks is still at the early stages of sequestering carbon within its ecosystem. One thing was noticed was that because of the plant community structures, it was rapidly sequestering carbon, but it was hard to retain that carbon because Sparks is designed to manage stormwater runoff and to filter pollutants. So a lot of that carbon doesn't get stored within the soil because of the deposition of sediments. So even though given these conditions when it's not designed for carbon, it is still able to store at such an early age. It is still able to store reasonable amount of carbon in its profile. And another thing that comes out of these findings is that in literature, a similar study was done in California, where they said that freshwater wetlands, they start acting as carbon sinks as early as 2 years, when they are as young as 2 years old, and if they have a vegetation cover of 55%. So at the case of these two sites, the vegetation cover was greater than 55%, and they were both acting as carbon sinks. And also when we compare their carbon sequestration rate of 807 and 86.3 to other temperate ecosystems such as grasslands and forests and croplands, we can see that they are storing, and this is the soil carbon sequestration, not the above ground. So we can see that the freshwater wetlands are storing a large proportion of carbon in the soil compared to other systems. So far, I was able to identify 3 carbon sink sites at both wetlands. The first sink site stored most of its carbon within the deeper soil stratas, and so that's up to 90 centimeter depth. So given the area and the distribution, the figure was about 28 million kilogram carbon was being stored within the and it stored carbon within 2 of its pools. One was the soil and one was the litter carbon pool. And this area was covered with a monodominant herbaceous wetland plant community structure, mostly comprising of carex and equatorial plant showing up with species. And they grew over Winery TP soils that had low bulk density, very high saturation, very high water saturation, and low soil pH, and high salinity. And the reason why this area was able to store large amount of carbon was because of the presence of particular Winery TP soil, the presence of high water levels, and the persistent plant structures such as carex and equatorial species that have whose plant material is recalcitrant to decomposition, and they have dense root profiles. Second carbon sink site stored a majority of its carbon in the upfront biomass. And it's stored in 2 carbon pools only. One was the vegetation, and the second one was the litter carbon pool. And it was covered with a mixed species composition of forest wetland plant communities. And this area was less saturated, and it created aerobic zones in the soil profile, which led to faster oxidation of stored carbon to the carbon dioxide. And because the leaves and the leaf was weak and other litter quality was a bit thereby, which could be easily decomposed by the microbial community. The soil organic matter quality was could be was there was less organic matter input to the soil. And most of these plant communities we flew over 10,000 nutrient soils. Third carbon sink soil site stored carbon in both above ground and the below ground stocks. And that was and it stored carbon in all three places, which was soil, vegetation, and carbon, and litter carbon trees. And one of the chief it was covered with woodland plant community structure. And some of these plant species were old. They were still retained at the time when the Travis land was converted from farmland. And there was a very high organic matter input and high root turnover at these soils. What this finding indicates was that 1 minute left. Carbon was not stored equally in all biomass forms. There were some areas that were successful at storing carbon in the soil, and there were others that were successful in storing carbon more in the plant biomass. And there were several reasons for this. One was the plant species, second was water levels, and third was the soil type. So what this says is that all sides of that when we are looking at design implications for creating such carbon sites, we can, it will not be practical to expect all areas to store equal amount of soil carbon. We have to look at alternative approaches to stock some of the carbon in the above-ground plant structures. And which is where the importance of plant community structures and assemblages comes when we are looking at these systems for carbon storage. Because key factors that influence the carbon in the soil is the amount of above ground is the amount of plant biomass input, the root litter input and the root turnover. And most of and when we look at the structures, when we look at the sedge tussock structures, the rushes and the reeds and the grasslands, what was noticed was that most of them have 5% adventitious root systems with high root turnover and below ground productivity, which allocates most of their carbon to the root and facilitates a stable carbon reservoir at the plant. But there were other areas that had no that were not able to stock that much carbon within the soil because of the quality of their plant biomass and the quality of the root litter input and low root turnover in these areas. And most of these shrubs, water structures were storing carbon in their biomass device. And there was this one particular woodland structure that was storing carbon in water device. In addition of the amount of carbon that gets sequestered at the site, plants are efficient at influencing the amount of carbon stocks at the site. What's equally important are the moisture levels, soil types, which generate these plant community structures in the wetlands. And the particular soil parameters that are important for carbon storage are the acidity, the soil pH, salinity, and the bulk density. So it's not following a hierarchical order. The interconnections are complex, and what this means is that when I reached the stage of the design implications, the design considerations for these community structures and assemblages would be presented in relation to these environmental factors that together influence the complexity of the organic matter input and the creation of microbial communities at these sites, which together produces these carbon stocks and generation of carbon sink sites. So what I hope to achieve through this project is to develop design consideration for these carbon sink sites at freshwater wetlands based on the current data and based on the understanding of that we have the carbon analysis for freshwater wetlands so far. So wetland restoration as a negative emission technology requires systems to remain as net carbon sinks over decadal to century time frames. So we know so far that these systems are complex in terms of monitoring and managing these carbon stocks. And this project is a first step to assess the role of plant communities and ascended structures on soil carbon interactions. And it's the first step to determine the design and management practices that create and protect these carbon sites and freshwater wetlands infrastructure. And it is also a step forward to generate enough evidence to support the credibility of these ecosystems to produce stable carbon reservoirs in urban settings. Thank you. Thank you.
So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jeremy, and today I'll be presenting my presentation. And the title is How Can Wineries Under the Design of Wineries Support Wellbeing? And my supervisors are Nada and so my research problem, as a catalyst, COVID has intensified awareness due to the stress caused by the pandemic, and it has also helped highlight the importance of connecting with nature. So why is this a problem? Because there's a need to prioritize healthcare by being in nature, by exercising, and thereby improving lifestyle changes, positive lifestyle changes. And also, food and wine are increasingly being recognized as we share modern connections to the landscape. So it is established that understanding between nature, well-being, and the landscape. However, there's little research to suggest that wineries might support well-being. So in my literature introduction, from the literature review, I got these 4 topics. So they are landscape, experience, well-being, and wineries, and I consider them the main drivers of my research. And I expressed them in the Venn diagram that you will continue to see in the slides. So in the intersection of landscape and experience, we know that landscape is well recognized for its visual aesthetics, but it's more than its views. It's a place that combines the physical and cultural aspects of land. And for my subtopics, I look at places to stage, taskscape, and terroir, because I want to identify how to interact. We first talk about places to stage. So the concept of stage is used by several authors to demonstrate how place is constantly being made and remade through social iterative practices. And if you look at the image above, it shows the setting of a dining area or cafe. And I present this as the stage. And the people on the stage as performers and the activities being carried out as the performance. So place is a performative realm, sets the stage of activities and interactions to take place, and it produces and reproduces. Then we look at taskscape that I buttoned from Team and Go, and I've used the same image that you used, that there's Peter Bruno's So in the image from the painting, it shows place at the stage as well within the rural landscape, and harvesters carrying out activities. Such taskscape, by definition, that's called the Team and Go. It is a combination of place activities carried out in a time frame where an individual participates in the environment. And it also highlights the importance of movement, exploration, to experience, and participation within the landscape. Then we talk about terroir in the intersection of landscape and experience. So terroir is commonly a wine term, but there is also the physical and human characteristics of the place. And examples of terroir are geology, soil, culture, savoir-faire, and climate. So in discussing terroir, I look at gastronomy as well. Gastronomy is the art of creating, transforming, preserving, processing, and the consumption of food. And as such, when I relate terroir to wine, I am from the literature it suggests that all these characteristics can be compressed into a wine bottle, and how taste is expressed is through the wine label, the tasting of wine, and the enjoyment of wine within the landscape. So gastronomy in the landscape is also related to dining. Food and beverages can be consumed in the landscape as well. It doesn't have to be alcoholic, it can be non-alcoholic. Because we're focused on the experience of gastronomy in the landscape. So tea tasting is a useful variable that I have drawn that includes all, if not some of the senses. Next, we look at experience and well-being. So in the intersection of experience and well-being, some if not all the senses engage in order to experience the landscape. The literature suggested that taste can support well-being through contact with the environment or the environment's response to individual needs. More specifically, well-being can be supported by experiences in nature and in the rural landscape. As such, I look at two subtopics, that is atmosphere and ritualistic experience. So, in atmosphere, it is considered the character of place and describes the relationship between people and the embedded relationship between people and place. And it can be consumed just as it can be reproduced. So, if you look at the image of it shows the setting of the winery as a stage and composition of elements through the site elements of the tangible and intangible qualities of the site. As such, atmosphere can be affected by positioning of the stage and its composition to generate emotions to support well-being. Then we look at ritualistic experiences. So ritual is defined as the act of performing a series of behaviors in accordance with prescribed protocol. But if we draw similarities to stage, it is similar to practices and routines that are performed in the landscape that is governed by its own laws. So when we talk about rituals, usually we draw meaning to how to memorials. So as such, I placed an image over here to show how rituals can take place in the place. So, for example, in place rituals are done by placing flowers, stones, or even small items to commemorate the day. And then as a form of ritual activity, I looked at the Japanese tea ceremony, where it embodies a ritualistic aspect of preparing the tea set, preparing the tea, boiling of the water, brewing the tea, tasting the tea, which requires some of all the senses. So as such, we can say that rituals are formed in places consist of personalized and non-personalized rituals, which can generate experiences and contribute to well-being. Then we look at the intersection between landscape and wineries. Wineries are usually located in the rural landscape in the countryside, and it is a place for visitors to escape, especially if they live in the city. So landscape can provide, the literature has suggested that landscape can provide memorable and positive experiences within the rural context to improve well-being. As such, the subtopics I'll be looking at activities within and winescape. So these are some activities that have been suggested by the literature. So festivities, socializing, rural settings, and vineyard destinations, learning about wine and winemaking, picnics, barbecues, winery tours, and meeting a winemaker. These are just some of the common activities that take place in a winery. Of course, if we categorize them, the common themes are socializing, education, exploration, and seeking rural, And then this is where the gap is in well-being and winery. In the intersection of well-being and winery, we look at commodified windscape spaces and activities. So the commodification of rural landscape and wineries appeals to visitors seeking the four themes. So experiences, education, beautiful scenery, and entertainment outside the city. And because there is potential of positive connections drawn between green spaces and mental well-being, that's where we get this to, a potential to do further research to that wineries and self-well-being. So next I move on to my research objectives and questions. So my objectives, my questions, and my methods are all linked. My first objective is to gain an understanding of the spatial setting and qualities of selected wineries. Second, to identify how wineries are able to support well-being through the rituals and activities encouraged. The third objective is for wineries to be considered a feasible location to support well-being. My questions are, what case-specific experiences are encouraged in the spatial settings of wineries and how can they support well-being? How can activities conducted in winery landscape support visitor well-being, and how can future wineries be designed to support well-being? So if you see these colors over here, blue, yellow, green, they will be highlighted in the methods. So this is just a very rough order of how I tend to carry out the research methods. So from question 1, which is highlighted in blue, and question 2, which is highlighted in yellow, they offer different runs of how the methods are carried out. But essentially, question 2 and question 1 will run together to question 3. So I start off with a table overview of the wine regions, wineries, and experiences offered. And this information will be found from the promotional websites of wineries and social media accounts, for example, Instagram. So from the list of 10 wine regions, I'm selecting 3 wineries per wine region. And I will then identify the pattern of how wineries are promoting themselves and what they are offering. And in the streamlined selection, I will select wineries that offer similar activities so that I will be comparing the landscape settings and the winery spatial settings. At the same time, in relation to question 2, I will be looking at parallel studies of norms or facilities that are known to work for well-being, for example, hospitals and schools. Now, the reason for this parallel studies we conducted is because I was trying to look at norms that I can compare wineries to. However, at present, there are no norms for me to compare to. So this is one way that I can adopt work from other research to inform the research that I'm trying to carry out. So after I streamline the selection of representative samples, I will get to the site visit and collect an inventory of site of spatial settings and conduct a walking interview per winery. So during the inventory collection of spatial settings, I will be looking at things like the scale of the place, the scale of the space, the composition of the stage, okay, its atmosphere, and the circulation of how visitors move through the winery in relation to experience. And as for the walking interview, I have decided that it will be with the winery manager and it will not be structured. So it will offer more flexibility for me to create the results. And so what the parallel studies will do is that it will help to inform and to help identify the site issues that are found from the inventory, and then to provide data to inform how future wineries can to better support well-being. Next, I look at I present the budget. So most of the budget is catered for travel, because right now, as of now, I haven't found the results of the table overview, and as such, I'm not sure if the wineries will be able to be North Island or South Island level. Such a lot of the budget is catered for travel. As for health and safety, so field will be conducted, so necessary precautions, safety precautions will be taken. Because I'll be wearing boots, I'll be avoiding places that consider dangerous, and I will not loiter unless I'm given a tour by the winery.
Drinking and driving.
No drinking and driving, yes. That's why I've allocated so much money for food. So hopefully I don't have to go for this budget. So I have $500 more for wine. And then of course I'll conduct myself in an appropriate manner that is that reflects well the university. Thank you.
Okay, kia ora anō, hello again everybody. Wow, it's been quite a long and intense day. An incredible variety. But just a few things to wrap up. I'm sure everyone's well ready to go and get a drink or something. And experience some well-being. So firstly, just to our student presenters, just to say how incredibly proud of you we are. It's been really amazing to see you step up and present and to really see you work through. I know a lot of you were quite nervous before presenting today, and thinking back to Rosalind's comments this morning about being really proud of what you've achieved, and you've made this all happen for us today, and you've done some presentations that were extremely beautiful, some of them, and very powerful and clear and good use of diagrams, and really a lot to show us how to do things as well, which we really appreciate. That's really fantastic. And I think Andreas wanted to use the term bandwidth to talk about the sort of the breadth of what we do, and that's really been shown up today as well in terms of an incredible range of things that we've covered during the day, which has really stretched our brains out, which is fantastic. A lot of themes that have come through in terms of care and concern for the landscape and for people, which is being really heartening in terms of what landscape architecture can do for the planet. Hugh, when he came in, talked about how refreshing it was to come to Lincoln and see the sort of moral imperative to make things better, which was really fantastic to hear as well. Which of course was set against the economic reality of the world and the fact that we can't always do these very idealistic things, but to have that set as a very much a goal for what we might want to achieve. All of the unpacking and repacking that all of you did so that we can see your working and your sense of where you're coming from as you built up your conceptual framework for research was really fantastic. And really sort of thinking also about the huge geographical range that we saw today as well. So we had quite a few around Lincoln, which is great. We had this wonderful experimental place next to us here with
with P-Finiki and Team Change 69, it's sort of kind of like the gifts that keep on giving in terms of data and change on the doorstep. Christchurch with the Okawaho, the Heathcote and the Ohakaro, the Avon, the wetlands, the mountains and that whole broad setting of Waikaha, of Canterbury around us, the wineries and all this kind of thing out South America, the Colombia, Bolivia, Chile, China and Qingdao. And India to see a very interesting view of the Taj Mahal from kind of the back, which was absolutely fascinating. There's that infrastructural framework that is going on at the back there that we don't really think about when we see that very touristic, scenic view of the world. So, yeah, without further ado, I guess, just really Ioi Kako, let's finish with the karakia. Uruhia, Uru Tapanui, Kia Wākia, Kia Māma, Kia Kako, Kia Kinana, Kia Wairoa, Kia Aratakata, Koiara, I Roko, Waka Iria, Ato Kia Ruka, Tutura, Waka Maua, Kia Tina, Tina, Tue, Tai Kia. And with that, if anyone would like to go to the staff and postgrad club, celebrate with a drink and something to eat, you're very welcome to. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to the students. Thank you to the panelists. Thank you to the staff for the support. Special thanks to Noah, who's done an amazing job